Hello everyone and welcome back to the podcast of my channel, and today I'm going to be discussing about the Roaring Knight from Deltarune chapter 3 and 4. As of the moment of I'm recording this video, the Roaring Knight of the Roaring Knight in Deltarune has officially made their first debut on screen, and their design and their lore is very cool. It seems that they have something going on with Chris. Something is going on with the holidays, namely Carol Holiday, Noel's mother, who also made her first debut on screen as Gore, who seems to be related in this mess, and Chris, who the only uh, thing that is tying them to that is the fact that you quote unquote defeat the knight, instead of striking Chris like they do with Susie and Tralsey, the knight just uh, you know does presses their knife against Chris's shoulder, and Chris bends. It's like very reminiscing of the process called knighting, in which a person of royalty just uh, puts their blade on your shoulder to knight you and all of that, and this sprite even references that and all of that. Anyway, all of this is obvious. I am not going to be talking about it. One thing that I am going to be talking about is how seemingly the knight is on a mission to recruit slash kidnap all the people that have the that potentially have the strength to stop them. I am going to be discussing this by using some evidence from Undertale. So stay tuned for that, because you know the lore from Deltarune is seldom just regarding Deltarune. You have to use Undertale at some point. Anyway, the first thing we need to discuss is what on earth the knight was planning on doing with Toriel after seemingly trying to kidnap her in chapter 3. And well, the answer to that seems very clear to me personally. The knight was trying to kidnap Toriel because, like Asgore, we know from again, I'm going to use Undertale evidence here. We know from Undertale that, like Asgore, Toriel is very strong. Like, she literally has the same. She is literally the as strong as Asgore stat wise, other than her HP. Like, I mean, from the stat wise, like, obviously neither of them use their full strength to battle us at any point during Undertale, but like the canonical stats are 80 attack and defense for both of them, and obviously Asgore has like more HP if I remember properly. Yeah, but the point is, um, the Roaring Native is probably trying to kidnap her specifically here because, well, if they it's if they do not do something with, if they do not deal with her now, uh, when they try to cause the roaring and all of that, she is probably going to be a big threat later on. Remember, despite the knight being very strong, they seem to have a weakness towards magic. They seem to have the sorry, my recording got cut off. They seem to have a weakness against magic specifically. If I remember properly, like Susie's Root Buster actually ignores their defense. If I remember properly, it does more damage to them, is all I'm saying. And and remember, the moment Undyne comes to the view and tries attacking them with her magic spears, like the knight is out of there. Like, it seems like obvious to me at least that the knight has this innate weakness against magic specifically. So them trying to kidnap someone who, like, we don't know if monsters have their magic in the light world. That part is not like very clear, but remember, Undyne seemingly seconds after entering the dark world was like innately able to access her spear magic. So, like, and like with Susie too, like, uh, she just masters Root Buster out of nowhere. So, like, Seemingly with Toriel and other monsters too, the same would happen, in which they are able to easily access their respective magics the moment they enter their dark worlds. And anyway, yeah. So basically, the my theory is that the knight is trying to kidnap Toriel because in case the roaring in case of roaring, the dark worlds are going to be everywhere. So will probably have access to magic everywhere because of the dark, because being in the dark world and everything. And so, like, because of the knight's seeming the weakness to magic, uh, unless they deal with her now, she is going to be a threat to them later down the line. And also, like, the knight probably kidnaps Undyne for the same reason. Like, Undyne is not as strong as Toril, but like, in from Undertale, she is like still very strong. And even in Deltarune, we see her lifting little cars. So uh, yeah, Undyne is like very strong. So them kidnapping Undyne also makes sense regarding this theory. Then we have Asgore. Again, spoilers for chapter 4 here, but Asgore seems to be working with the knight, and also references having a black shard and saying how the black shard looks beautiful. Now, whether it's black shard is like a reference to the black shard item which you get for defeating, quote unquote, defeating the knight, or whether it's a shadow crystal is like it's kind of debatable in my opinion, because as the like because the shadow crystal in the light world turns into glass, but nowhere in the item's description of the black shard is it ever described as beautiful as Asgore describes it. uh, Anyway, but the shadow crystal, which again turns into glass, is described as like showing visions which can be arguably be like uh, interpreted as being beautiful. Like, maybe the shadow crystal is like showing Asgore something he wants to see, and he is saying that it is beautiful because of that. Anyway, point is, this seems to align with some of the things that the knight is doing. The knight seems to have a habit, bordering hobby, of giving the shadow crystals out to the very entities, again, that have the ability to stop him. Because, like, unlike, you know namely the super bosses slash secret bosses of Deltarune, namely Jevil and Spamton. Both of these is like enemies. Namely, Jevil are like very powerful. Jevil specifically has, if I remember properly, more HP than the king himself. Like, the final boss, and like Spamton Neo, like Spamton doesn't name specifically doesn't, but when he gains his Neo body, he gets more HP than the chapter's final boss Queen. He might have more HP than Giga Queen, but I forgot about that part. My theory is that the knight gave these two the shadow crystals, namely because to to drive them insane. The shadow crystals seem to have like an innate property of driving insane the people that hold them. Uh, like Jaru J did a very good theory regarding this, and he concluded that the shadow crystals uh, don't really try to drive you insane, but they have show you some other timeline and all of that. But with the context of these chapters, I feel like this is actually wrong. Like, I think the shadow crystals have the tendency, whether not the intentional purpose or not, to drive the users mad. And I say this because of one person. I'm talking about Gerson Boom slash the old man slash the secret boss of chapter 4. He specifically says during one of after you defeat him that it seems like someone gave him a shadow crystal with the intent of wanting him to use it. He says that it doesn't interest him and then proceeds to give this to Susie. But the point is that again, Gerson, as we see with his secret boss battle, is very strong, and moreover, he he has the ability which allows him to help the party defeat a titan, for crying out loud. Do you know how strong of an achievement that is, defeating the titan, a literal godlike being? That takes a lot of strength. So and again, so basically, my theory is that the knight is trying to distribute the shadow crystals to the entities that will one day have the strength to try that will one day potentially have the strength to defeat him. And I say this because one, Jevil, he gets the shadow crystal and it makes him insane, and that makes him imprisoned, so that will put him in a position where he cannot be any harm to the knight. And Spamton is a little different in that the shadow crystal is directly not given to him but to the Neo robot body that he borderline worships. What this tells me is that the knight or whoever is distributing these shadow crystals is doing it with this specific intent. With Spampton specifically, at least, is that he will only be driven insane if he actively pursues the new body slash pursues the strength that will give him the strength to defeat the knight, or like at least put up a fight against the knight. So if Spampton would have not gone after the new body, he would have probably not gone as insane. I mean, he probably would have gone at least a little insane, because like his life sucks. So like he would have gone insane either way, but not as insane is my point. Right. And with chapter 3, the knight holds a shadow crystal in the context of this theory, probably with the intent of giving it to whatever entity that is strong enough to defeat him in this world, so that later down the line they will not have to worry about them. If I had to guess, it would be probably one of the secret, one of the NPCs that is related to the shadow metal quest line, or the plague guy, the Ram, I think the name was. The knight would have probably given the shadow crystal to Ram, because like the Ram is the one who tells us about the shadow. I mean, they doesn't tell us about the shadow metal specifically, but they are the one that help Chris, get into the quest line and hints about it. So the knight would have probably given the shadow crystal to them, because then they would not be able to help the Delta warriors, which would mean that they would not get the shadow mantle. Obviously we can like defeat the knight without the shadow mantle, but like the I don't think the knight would have anticipated the Delta warriors being insane enough to try that. I mean, like, they are insane enough to try that. What I mean is that like, well, the knight probably realizes that without the shadow mantle, the chances of the Delta warriors defeating them is like very low. And then we get to Gerson. Again, Gerson is canonically strong enough to take down like a titan, and trying to to drive him insane, like that is something that would benefit the knight a lot. Like like if Gerson was mad, he would not have been able to help the Delta Warriors take down the Titan, which which would basically doom them and probably like the entire locality of the church, because like they, you know, something would have definitely happened like there. So like the I again the knight or whoever is giving the shadow crystals in trying to help the knight, trying to drive Gerson insane would make sense. Gerson is one of the few entities that has shown to be able to undo what the knight has done with relative ease. Trying to drive him insane would make sense. And then we get to Asgore. Regardless of what he's, regardless of whether what he's holding is a black shard or a shadow crystal, it is obvious that the knight has gone, the knight or whatever this entity that is trying to help the knight or aligned with the knight is trying to do is a little different with him. Unlike all these other characters, uh, it seems that they have seemingly convinced Asgore that helping them would, return his life back to a degree of normalcy that he has lost and is longing for, like giving his family would go back to normal and all of that. And Asgore is like obviously desperate enough to try something like that. And they're probably like again using the shadow crystal, regardless of whether Asgore is talking about the shadow crystal here or not, to convince him that showing him visions that will like make him mentally more vulnerable, well, vulnerable, more susceptible to psychological manipulation is what I'm getting at. Because like while they can probably like take out a lot of the people that can defeat them, you know what would be more better, you you know what would be like even better of an option, having someone who has the strength to defeat you on your side. Because at that point, like even if your opposition, the Delta Warriors, actually managed to recruit someone of similar strength, uh, because both of you have like characters that are of relatively the same strength, that would like theoretically neutralize is the influence, like and like again a good example is if the Delta Warriors were able to permanently recruit Gerson slash the old man to help them, like recruit them to their castle town. I mean, they weren't able to, but like if they had, if they had recruited him, that having Asgore on the knight's side would obviously help the knight. Because again, as we know from Undertale, uh, the Gerson and Asgore seemingly are like Asgore is seemingly stronger than Gerson, or like at least on the similar level of strength, as it is directly stated that both of them were survivors of the human and monster war. So having Asgore on the knight's side would obviously help them, and that's about it with my theory. My theory, in summary, is that the knight is trying to take down on every entity that has the potential to stop them or stop the titans, by either kidnapping them, like they tried to do with Toriel but were unsuccessful. They like they did with Undyne and they were successful, or drive them insane like they did with Spamton and Jebel, and they seemingly tried to do the same with Ramb. I think the name was, sorry, I haven't played the game myself. I only watched the long plays, and I even then I skipped a few parts of it because like I want to experience the game myself. Anyway, the person in chapter 3 that helps Chris with the shadow mantle question, and they seemingly also try to do this same thing with Gerson slash the old man, because again Gerson is like, he has outright shown himself to be strong enough to take on a lateral titan. Well, with the help of the Delta Warriors, but like the Knight probably knows that if any entity strong enough to oppose him, is going to stand against him, the entities are probably going to do it alongside the Delta Warriors. So anyway, uh, or the Knight can is all also trying to recruit some of these entities that are strong as them, or arguably stronger than them, like they are seemingly doing with Asgore, and arguably Carol as well. Carol Holiday, we know from the Snowgrave route that Noel is very strong in using her ice magic. Carol, as a fully grown adult, would probably have even strong of a magic, like realistically speaking. So, and they seemingly have recruited Carol as well, because like uh, Carol is actively trying to make sure that Susie doesn't find a particular clue regarding the bunker and all of that. So again, to summarize, the Knight is trying to use these shadow crystals to drive some people insane, uh, to, like, and they're recruiting some of the people, and they are, well, kidnapping some of those people who are strong enough to stop them. In case my ramblings were incomprehensible, you can feel free to talk to me in the comments. Like, I have very less subscribers, so I can talk to each subscriber like individually. So feel free to comment down if you did not understand some of my ramblings. Anyway, thank you for watching, and bye for now.